people, hello, beautiful people. I want to say hello. I want to say welcome. So this is another episode of Give It to the People Live. And I am super excited today because this is going to be our first day for our people that watch it visually, where we're on our webinar platform. And let me tell you why we had to change. We had to change because Instagram does not know how to act sometimes. And so sometimes the internet wants to swirl around and people drop out and drop in, and I cannot continue to take that. That drives my nerves crazy. So we decided to change over the platform and go with something way more reliable. So I use GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar, if you'd like to be a sponsor, that'd be awesome too. Okay, just FYI. But I'm Pennix-Brown, and we do Give It to the People every week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is to help celebrate BIPOC businesses. And BIPOC means Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And I also like to specifically work with women-owned businesses and nonprofits, and so we like to highlight those types of businesses because oftentimes those are the ones that are underserved, undershadowed, and always could use some more publicity. So we like to bring on great people, and of course, every week we have somebody great for you. And I'm super excited about our guest tonight. But before we get into our guest, I have to let you know some house rules. This is Tambourine Brown. Okay, Tammy Faye, Tambourine Brown. And when people say something good, I gotta give it to the people with a little Tammy, because this is for the people in the back. This is for the people who didn't hear it and they need to hear it a second time. But it's also those like aha moments that, oh, okay, those are those quotables that people say. So Tammy will make her appearance because I know Joy is gonna say some great stuff, so I'm not even worried about that. So first off, I want to welcome our guest this evening, Joy Nelson Thomas, because I'm super excited about her. And I sent out like a whole bunch of, invites to people that I knew were really awesome. And she responded, and then she said, yes, I would love to come on the show. And so I'm super excited to have her because we have a relationship that goes back years. But Joy, I want to welcome you. And I want you to be able to tell the people about you. Just give them a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, so it's always hard for me to do this. I think I feel like I'm a very humble person. I'm just Joy, but I am a mother to a beautiful baby boy, JT, which is Jasper. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a woman of God. I am also the founder and executive director of an organization called Lead Girls of NC, which we focus on at-risk middle school preteen girls. So really providing access to resources that align with communication, leadership, self-awareness for our girls, and primarily our girls of color. We know oftentimes we are the ones that are left behind and we'll always have to work a little bit harder. And so, just really excited about the work that we're doing. For the past 5 years, we focused on middle school, but we've been approached to do some work in elementary and high school. And so we're just excited about kind of the future and what's next for the organization.
Oh, I love that. Now, let me tell you. So people, what I usually do is I usually say, well, how did we meet? What happened with us, right? So I don't even know how Joy found out about me. Let me just be honest. I'll let her tell you that. But Joy and I had a consultation 4 or 5 years ago. How many years has it been?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. And let me tell you how it went. So we sit down, we're at the Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm doing my consultation. I ask the same questions I've been asking from the beginning. What are your goals? What do you want to do, right? What do you see as your 90-day focus, right? And in this time frame, Joy is telling about a totally, completely different business. She is telling me about a interior design business, and she's got all these great ideas, right? And I'm like, that sounds good. That sounds like I can see it working. But then she proceeds to tell me, well, look, I would love to start a nonprofit, and I want to work with girls. And as we're talking, Joy is giving me all the life about the nonprofit. The whole little interior design business, it was like, I told her, I said, yeah, it sounds like you want to do the interior design business. You are super excited about this nonprofit. I can see that being the thing because the level of excitement you have for that is not the same that you're telling me for this interior design business, right? So lo and behold, what is she doing now? She's doing the nonprofit, right? So I just want to tell y'all know I like to prophesy, but when I prophesied her, and then you don't understand, when you succeed and I see you, and I don't even see you as often, But it
Mhm.
makes me so happy. It makes me so proud because I'm like, I had a little teeny weeny sprinkle to do with that. And I'm like, it is amazing all of the things that you have been able to accomplish. So, how did you even find out about me in the first place? And then after we had that meeting, what was the spark that said, you know what, I'm gonna leave this interior design business alone?
So, it's crazy. So I think during that time I was really soul searching of
Uh-huh.
what was my purpose. And that being my background, interior architecture, I thought that was it. And I even remember back when I was in college, my senior project was about a digital divide and creating a space for people that didn't have access to technology. And so I think I found out about you through the small business, like looking for opportunities to be a part of like different workshops. And I came to one where
Mhm.
you were at the library in Greensboro. And mind you,
Okay.
I think I was driving from Winston. And I probably did some research and I said, oh, I'm loving her vibe. And so I showed up and yeah, and from there I think it was like, oh, you can set up an appointment. Maybe I went and I found out to your
Uh-huh.
website and then we set up our first consultation.
And see, I think that, let me say this, all right. You did the research, okay, and then she didn't have a problem paying the money to come see me. Came from Winston, traveled, right? So to me, I always feel like there are messages in what the person says as to how they got to success. And one thing I love about being able to do this show is we know where the person is at now. Like we know where they're at now, but what did it take for them to get there? To me, that journey is really the important part. And I think people don't speak about the simple thing that you have to do in order to start and grow your business. So look, after we have this meeting, then what made you say, you know what, I'm going to go all in to do this nonprofit?
So, after we finished that meeting, I mean, again, I think it was part of a faith walk. It was, and I want to say, I
Mm,
think it was a faith walk for
it
me. So, I mean,
was.
I did a lot of soul searching around what was my purpose and what was it that I was supposed to be doing. And with raising a friend of the family daughter from eighth grade into college, like that really exposed me to a whole nother level. I mean, me being a first gen, being a victim of bullying, as a teenage girl, still trying to explore who I was and what that looked like and trying to fit in. And so then with raising her, I saw it firsthand too, just within sometimes our school systems and black and brown girls. And then when you don't have like that support system, what does that look like? And so, I mean, it was a combination of things that really kind of pushed me forward. And so, I finally stepped out and did it. And, and we could talk for an hour about kind of my journey. So I'll cut it short because I know you have some other questions, but, I stepped out, but I mean, it has been a lot of no's, and I like to say no's are not
Mm,
nows.
hmm
But we have still been able to kind of move forward and support girls and grow but it's all been very strategic. But what I do realize also is that my background has
hmm
aligned my mind to think a certain way. And maybe I already
hmm
had this in me in school and pulled it out, but my mind operates like an architect. I mean, you think about every piece, the foundation being solid, and every piece of that building, from the lighting
hmm
plan, from the wall, like it has to be in order, or you don't have a solid building. And so I think that taking that in and being in corporate America has helped me really grow,
hmm
lead girls.
No, and you know what? One thing I can say, I think that I can see that. You know what I mean? I can see the architecture in the way that you do things because, I've seen a lot of people start nonprofits. I've seen a lot of nonprofits not do well. I've seen some do exceptionally well. And one thing that I could say about yours is it seemed like there was a hole that was just there, this big gaping hole in your area, and you were the one that jumped in because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I'm sure that there is somebody out there, but another nonprofit that's specifically in the Winston-Salem area that has gotten as much attention and that has, to me, been able to uniquely look at what was necessary and what the market wanted to bring forth what you bring. So for me, I want to ask you this because it's not the hard part to start the nonprofit, okay? Just like it's not the hard part to start the business. It's basic things you do to start. You file your paperwork, boom, you're in business. But it's keeping it going. And where I feel like you have a strength has been in finding people to collaborate with you and then working with the sponsors. So can you talk, because I know you specifically work with the college, right? Talk about how you started that relationship to even bring the girls onto a college campus and what kind of drove you to do that in the first place?
So, from as a graduate of Salem College, I mean, I was surrounded around women. But I think part of it was that exposure. As a first gen, oftentimes we're told. I mean, statistics already predetermine, or at least they try to predetermine what we'll be able to accomplish as women of color. And so, just giving girls a level of exposure and that opportunity to dream was so important for me because it amazed me, and even with the girl I raised, like how she had never been out of her city, and so often we take those things for granted. We're so privileged, and we don't even realize that when our parents took us to the beach, there's somebody that's never been to the beach. Shoot, there's somebody that hasn't even been across town. So just really realizing like that opportunity to be in a space that you can see yourself in it. Like you're now immersed in this space and you're like, wow. I mean, and that's what we started at Salem College. And I remember I had one of my professors, I went back to it, and I had a few I went to, and there was some that said no, they didn't want to be involved, but there was one professor, and she said, I'm with you. Like, I'm with you. And we started by using her space. And it's grown ever since then.
Okay, hold up. Tammy got to come out right now. She said it was a bunch of no's, but that one yes started the program. That one yes gave you that location. Okay. All you need is one yes. And that's what I think people get so defeated by all of those no's. But that one yes lets you know, look, we can start here, we can see what works, and we can build. And that lets you know that you had a rapport with people. So now I got to ask this question. Once you got it working, right? Were there people, and you can tell me yes or no, that said no before, or that didn't want to be involved, or that didn't whatever, right? And all of a sudden, once they started seeing what you're doing, then they want to jump on the bandwagon.
Oh yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, you have that, and and I try to be very transparent. I mean, I think that you're not going to be a good fit for everyone, and that's okay.
True.
And you have people that come back, but it's just also making sure people are a good alignment with the mission, especially in this work. Making sure that it's a good alignment and that they are there for the right reason. Is so important. It's so important. But absolutely, I had someone that said no, and then they turned around and they said, well, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can be maybe I can be on the board. So it's been an interesting journey.
Now, okay, so I need to ask about the board, because I tell people all the time, and people, I don't think they really fully understand that there is a drastic difference in running your own business and running a nonprofit. Even though you are the executive director, the founder, you have to have a board. And in your board dictates a lot of what you do, even though it's your vision, it's your passion, it's your mission. What did you do in looking for board members to find those people that align, so that this way you could clearly articulate your vision and get those people that were on board with it, on board with the board, right? So like, because you needed to find the right mix of people to be on that board, and they had to understand that there was a level of time, dedication, and commitment that you needed from them in order for your nonprofit to be successful.
Yeah, and I wish I had Tammy, because that's it. So often I hear people say they don't have a board because they want it to be their vision. And I think I would say to those people, you shouldn't have started a non-for-profit, because it's not something that you own. It is something that you truly are doing to fill, some sort of problem, or help kind of fix a problem within a community. But you don't own it. And so if you have that type of mindset, mindset, you should definitely switch over and turn it into a for-profit sooner than later, or just give it up, because it won't. I haven't seen many organizations that have leaders with that type of mindset really be able to sustain and stabilize the organization. And so my board has been amazing. And I mean, every year we have been very strategic about what we need. So I'll say when I first started, I mean, just being very transparent for all my people that are listening about starting an organization. I didn't have a PhD. I knew as a woman of color that I would have to navigate through some really muddy waters and have people question everything I did. And so I made sure I had some heavy hitters on our board. I mean, PhDs and researchers, and because I knew it was something really important. Everything that we did was backed by research, and so it's not that because I have a philosophy in my head: if you're not helping, you're hurting, and if you don't know, how do you know you're hurting? If you don't have, or helping, if you don't have any type of research, I mean, no type of data collection, nothing, you don't know. I mean, you're just out here on a whim. You're out here on a whim saying you're helping people, but how do you really know? And so every year we try to be very strategic about, okay, what are the needs? So we do a board metrics around, okay, who do we need on the board? Like, do we need marketing? Do we need, and so our board, I would say is, and I'm really proud of this, we're going on year 6, and we're a semi-working board, but moving towards governance. So, and when you get to that governance stage, that is when the board really is just, governing the board. They're not so much boots on the ground, but our board, I mean, every year it just amazes me, the women, and we've been mostly a woman-led organization. I mean, they're trailblazers, and we can't do this work without them. And I mean, it's been phenomenal.
Now, how many people do you have on your board now?
So right now we have 6. We are looking to grow, but I don't think necessarily a big board is always a good thing either. And so I think, sometimes it could be that I'm filling a seat, or, are we looking at where the organization is this year and what we need for the next 2 years as we continue to grow. And so we've had, I mean, it's fluctuated. We've had a bigger board and we've had a smaller board, but we are mindful that it has to be at least 5 to, and I think we cap it off at 11. And so right now we're at 6.
Okay. And I think that, it's important when you talk about the goals that you have and you talk about the metrics, because I'm just going to say it. Nonprofits, that this is one of my pet peeves, and I'm going to say specifically when it comes to African American or Black nonprofits. Could y'all stop doing fish fries? And I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying yours, but you feel me, right? Listen, the money, the time, the effort that you spend on that, you could have done something that was way more impactful. And yes, you may have raised XYZ, but how much did you spend to get this money that you raised, right? I see little things like that to me, I think when we started nonprofits way back in the day, that was our way to be community-based. That was our way to give back. But it was also somebody's idea that could cook. They said everybody like fish. Let's do a fish fry, right? Can you talk to some of the fundraising things that you've been able to do that help you to sustain this? Because I have never seen anything that you've done that's been like, what's the word I want to use? Suspect, right? Like, I feel like the things that you have done have been able to draw in the types of girls that you want to have, but then also the type of community support that you want. And then I'm sure it probably drew in some people that might be interested in being on the board and being donors. So can you talk about some of those things? Because people need to understand that nonprofits thrive off of that fundraising.
Yeah, they do. And I think one of the biggest things, and I was just talking with some friends about this, is that it's so important to diversify your funding. Like, I mean, as an organization, it to some degree is borderline. It is a business. Like, I mean, you're not in it for the profit, but it is a business. And, having a budget, diversifying the funding sources is so important. But I would also say, as an organization, you need to evaluate your fundraising efforts, and there's a lot of data that's supporting that you should not. And I apologize, my son is playing the piano. Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry. It's,
Okay, you got it.
my husband is supposed to be keeping an eye on him, but obviously JT is taking over and doing what he want to do. So, but it's just important to really, at some point, you may have to sunset. Hold on.
Hey y'all, listen, real life happens, okay? She doing her mama thing, she doing her nonprofit thing, so she'll be back in a second.
I'm so sorry.
It's
And of
okay,
course,
girl, that's real life. I told you doing your mama's thing, your nonprofit thing, girl, that's real life.
yeah, that is real, especially in this pandemic. But it's important to evaluate your fundraising efforts. At some point, you may have to sunset some things. I mean, you have to evaluate the time, like you said, and are you really making a profit? And what does that, what does that look like together? So it's just so important to evaluate that. And I would say, you may remember, you came to one of our very first fundraisers, and from that I remember it being maybe 30 people, and then a few years later we had over 200 people. And so, it's important to really think about those events, and the time that you spend on those. I would challenge people to do some donor cultivation. Really spend time understanding your stakeholders and your donors and getting to know them. They help sustain the organization, not necessarily the fundraisers.
Listen, okay, so listen, now I have to ask this question because I don't know the answer to this one. But in the time frame that you've been doing this nonprofit, everything that you've learned, and I think the last thing that we were probably at together was Association Fundraising Professionals. And that was when I was thinking about starting my nonprofit. And I said, you know what? I know what I'm good at. I am good at X, Y, and Z. I might not be good at D, E, and F. So let me go and learn what I need to learn from somebody else. And I think that being, to me, a lifelong learner and understanding your strengths and your weaknesses and who can help you to develop that is got to be one of the most things that I think keeps our businesses, our nonprofits successful. So have people asked you to teach them about doing a nonprofit? Because I like to prophesy toward the end, but I feel it in my spirit right now. If you're not doing that, it is the way that you explain things that makes me feel like, first of all, people would listen, they would be able to see the success, but you are one of few, and I'm not trying to knock anybody else, because I know a bunch of people that really talk about the metrics of what they need to be looking at, as opposed to, and I'm saying it that way because I think a lot of people, when they start nonprofits, they're just thinking about their heart. Mm-hmm. The heart is one part of the body, but you are very head conscious, where you're like, I can't let the heart just lead me if it doesn't make sense in the mind. So has anybody asked you to teach them anything about the nonprofit, about how to do that? Have they asked that? Because I feel it, girl.
So it's funny you say that, because I've thought about, okay, I should really maybe do some sort of consulting work, but I am a coach for the Small Business Center, Foresight Tech, and the Women's Business Center. And I've had people reach out, but I think the one thing is, this is not this is a marathon. Like, this takes time. And it takes people really committed to the work. But not, like you said, not just from the heart, but really thinking critically about how will this be around for another 5 years? If you care from the heart, you want to make sure you're creating something that's sustainable for so it'll be around. Even when you decide to leave, if you choose to leave, or who knows, you can get voted out. I mean, that's the thing with the non-for-profit world. So it's just important to try to think about both. And so, yes, I've had people mention that. Maybe I'll come back to get another consultation so I can branch out.
I am feeling it because it's the lack of understanding that people have about, stop doing this because this is not if you just want to do stuff, my husband told me this years ago, right? I was doing these parties. It was me and Kyle Santillian from 102 Jams, okay? And we did parties in the summertime, and it was fun, and we were having the best time. And my husband was like, okay, well, how much you making? I'm like, okay, well, we broke even tonight. Okay, well, we made a little bit of money. And he was like, so the first time that you lose some money, you know that's it, right? And we lost money one night. And he was just like, so this is where you have to make the decision on, are you just going to do this because you want to do it or because you want to make money? And he's just like, you are not a party promoter. You can, and I'm just like, I could be if I chose to be. Like, I could really get into this. But I'm like, I don't want to be in the nightlife. I don't want to, I just want to have a good time, right? So to me, that analogy is the same thing with the person with the nonprofit. You want to help people. But what people don't seem to realize is maybe your idea is great and maybe they should just partner with a nonprofit. Maybe they should just bring a program to a nonprofit. So have you had people that have bought great programs to you? Oh, she want me to get Tammy out. Look, I'm so used to doing it for other people, I don't even think about myself, right? Have you had people that have brought great ideas to you and you said that would be a great program, so let me bring this to Girls of North Carolina? Or, maybe there's something that you couldn't do right now, but later on you do that project because you feel like it would be a good thing. Has that been able to happen?
Yes, and I think, boy, I could have over here. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think so often people don't realize is do you have an organization or do you have a program? And so there's two different. I mean, it's different. And so often I've found myself saying that to people just that are like, oh, I've seen you've been able to do it, and I'm like, well, that sounds like that could be a great program, especially if you don't want to read contracts and fine print, but you want to write grants and get funding and so yes and no. I would say we have always had a strategic plan in place, and I think that's just so important because I think so often, especially as smaller organizations, this mindset of scarcity or like not having funding, you start doing all sorts of things and you don't stay true to your mission. And so we've always had a strategic plan in place, and I would say if it doesn't align with that, it's a no. And we have tabled some things and we've had some conversations with people, and and I think the other thing is when you think about really sustaining this organization is growing slow and steady. Because you can get so, I mean, you don't want to take and I mean, you can take a budget from 50 to 350,000, but can you sustain that over time? And so I think that's the thing. Like we've been very mindful. Okay, can we do this? And so very similar about the work we're doing in elementary and high school is, yeah, it sounds great, but I want to see the data, and I want to see it for multiple years before we start jumping into schools. And and again, that hurt. Are we helping or hurting? If we're not consistent, we're hurting our girls. And so it's just so important that we keep that in mind. So I would say yes and no, it has happened. But it's just important to make sure it's a good alignment. I mean, so often people will come to you and have you all over the place if you're not clear on your mission and your vision and having that plan. And so often you see non-for-profits that have strategic plans and they don't go even look at them again. But we do. We spend a lot of time, and the board spends a lot of time looking at that, and did we hit our marks, and what does that look like for us every year?
Now, when you mention the growth, right, I want to ask two questions. One would be, how many girls did you start out with, and how many girls do you have now?
So we started out with about 60 girls and now serve over 250.
Come on, hold up. Yeah, come on, 250.
And it's been phenomenal. I mean, we actually had one girl that graduated with, she graduated high school, and she had been with us for the whole 5 years. And it's just amazing to see the growth over the years. But it is important, like, we've been approached to do a lot of things, and and we probably could, but I'm not going to stretch my staff. We're so thin, and we have to know that we can sustain the programming before we jump into schools and with other partners, and it just has to make sense.
Now, my next question would be, because we want to talk about growth, what's the largest donation you've gotten so far, or like sponsorship? Because I mean, I know if you're applying for grants, so maybe the largest grant. I mean, because I don't want you to tell me who you gave it to or whatever, unless it's okay for you to say that. But because I think that when people get that perspective of like, okay, I can really raise this amount of money, what's like the largest grant that you guys have been able to get so far?
So I would say grants are different. I think grants take time. I think
They do.
you'll start with a smaller grant and you'll get to a place where people will give you more because they know that you can manage the funds. But I
Mhm.
would say I was able to secure an individual contribution of over 50,000, and so from one
Come on.
person.
See,
Um,
come on. That's
so
amazing.
yeah, but I mean, again, it's the person know that we can do the work. They wanted to know my vision, and and they know that we'll be around, that we're committed to this work. And so, I mean, I think, but I think as an organization, I would tell people growth is great, but also that donor cultivation, like really understanding who your village is, who your stakeholders are, how are you cultivating and connecting with them, because it's much deeper than oh, I'm gonna give you my money, and that same person that may give you $10 this first year may be able to give you 10,000 the next. They just want to see how you treat them in their funds. And so I say with funding, it's important to be transparent. Like, there you need to have good financials and be as transparent as possible.
Now, when you're talking about, just the cultivation, right? I think that a lot of the things have to do with the programming, and you've done some things that are different than I've seen some other nonprofits do. So, can you talk about some of the programming that you've done that maybe some other ones haven't done, and that may be where that sweet spot lies because they're like you're providing the girls with something different.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think every year, what may separate leave from a lot of organizations is the impact. So we are collecting data. I mean, it probably more than we need to,
Me
but
too.
it's just important to me to see everything. So we're looking at everything from at-risk behaviors to communication to the girl's sense of connection to community through pre and post. And so I would say that that's probably one piece of it, but we're also very mindful that we're connecting with our families. And I would say, like, even with the pandemic, there was some families that we talked to as much as 25 times in that span of this pandemic, and so that's a lot for a small organization. I have 5 staff members now, but still, like that's a lot when there's some larger organizations that are not doing things like that. And so we do provide our year-long program, and we provide programming, the same program, the leadership development program, inside of schools. So we have been able to form a partnership where we work directly in Title I schools. Now it looks different at every school, just depending on what their needs are, the time that they can carve out some time for lead, and we're not interfering with any type of elective or core classes, because we know that that's important.
Okay.
But we also know that the whole child is important. So when you look at a kid, and I've challenged people to really think critically about, it sounds great to say, oh yeah, we're going to just, it's about academics, but if these kids don't get some support with social emotional, like communication and navigating challenges, I
Soft
mean,
skills. I try to tell
yes,
them those soft skills are important.
they are very important. I mean, because we've had girls come into school first thing at 8 o'clock ready to fight. And so, I mean, it's just those things, like the challenges that our kids, and some will call it ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that kids experience that really do impact them. And so we offer that. We offer a summer fashion entrepreneurship camp, which is my fun, something that I
And
really
that's
love.
the one I was talking about. I was waiting for you to get to that one. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, go ahead, tell us.
So I mean, that that came from, and that's again where you have to evaluate things. That all started from, we had a board member who had a background in textiles, and we started talking about quick fashion and how it affects the economy on so many levels. And so I said, well, let's figure out something. And so the girls really took to it, and so then we had an economist sit on the board, and we started talking about, well, how do we make this into something entrepreneurship based? And so we developed, or she helped develop, a curriculum that focuses on entrepreneurship for girls that age, for middle school. And so we do that. They do like a project runway day. We partner with Goodwill. They go and shop. They come back. They learn to sew, and they walk Fashion Week. So, I mean, and just that level of confidence you get from that is, I mean, that's unheard of, to walk a runway at that age. And so, and then we do summer programming. So we do, we this year we did some park pop-ups, or we partner with the city of Winston to utilize their park space. And then we partner with Renota Gardens. And so the girls had the opportunity to be there. And we also work with the parents. So we had some girl / guardian kind of challenges that they participated in.
See, and that to me is wonderful. And that, when I saw you do the fashion, I was like, that is such a great idea. Like, I wish somebody would have done that when I was a kid, because I used to sew, but I sewed because specifically in college, I hated going to parties and seeing somebody with the same thing on. That bothered my nerves so bad. So I always wanted to be unique. I guess that's just always been in me. So I learned, my mom taught me how to sew, and I just would always make little stuff, little outfits, little shirt, little something, just so it would be different, and then you wouldn't have the same thing. So there are skills that they're learning that they will then be able to take into all different areas of their life. And then it's some of them that they can impart onto other people too, right? So that enrichment they get there, it's a well-rounded balance of things. And to me, that entrepreneurship piece is a key, because I think more schools should teach. Well, no, I think all schools should teach it. Honestly, right? The school is teaching us to take some tests and go get a job. But there are plenty of things where if they taught an entrepreneurial mindset, that I think you would have a different human, right? Like if that were taught in school. So you being able to bring that to the school system, to me, is something that is amazing for kids to be able to have, specifically girls, right? Because we know that women are the everything, I mean, good for men, but women are everything, right? So we build up each other based on what we know. And if we don't know anything, you can't expect us to be but so great, right? So that knowledge and just being able to have that is like an amazing thing. So my next question is going to be,
and one last thing, we do a girls expo, which is an all day event. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's actually coming up on October 9th. And we're almost at.
Let me look at my schedule. Hold on, October 9th. Tell the people about it.
So it is virtual this year. The previous years, the first year we did it on Salem College campus, and so the girls go through an all-day program, and they normally on a college campus, and they get to meet an author. They leave with her book. This year we're really excited. So it's going to be virtual, but we have a couple things that I think are just. I mean, the facilitators we have are fantastic. We try to make sure that always aligns with what the girls need that year. So this year is about the social anxiety. So we have a licensed counselor who will be kind of leading that session. We have another facilitator who will be leading some things on kind of self-confidence, what I bring to the table. We have a STEM piece. The girls will actually get to meet the producer of Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey. So Lynn,
that was such a cute movie.
So she'll be there in the space on the Zoom room with them. And we were hopeful that we would have been able to do it in person, but it's just crazy. But they'll leave with her book, and she's going to engage in conversation with the girls. And they'll leave with a drawing bot, like a robot that draws. They leave with a step. We have 2190 coming to do a hip hop step class. So, I mean, it's going to be, we're giving away AirPods and tablet. I mean, so we have some amazing prizes, and the parents, they'll have some parent talk with one of our facilitators who is also a licensed counselor. And so parents even have a chance to win some amazing prizes, one including a
Oh,
2-night
wow.
hotel stay. Yeah, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to do it in person at some point, but we'll make it fun even though we're online again for the second year.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay, I totally love that, which that goes right into what my question was going to be. If people have daughters and they're in the Winston-Salem area, and you serve Forsyth County, correct?
Mhm. And
Okay, and they want to get.
I was gonna say we had a contract with communities and schools in Guilford and in High Point to do work, and so we're still exploring what that will look like. But we have had schools and people reach out to us about coming back to Guilford County.
Okay. Okay. So if a person has a daughter or a niece or a granddaughter, or, they're just the guardian or whatever, and they want to get their young lady involved with Lead Girls, can you tell us the age that you go, so the age range, and then what do they need to do to get their young lady involved in Lead Girls?
So it's simple. Go to our website, www.leadgirls.org. I think our website does a great job. It may be so much information, but it's well done. But you can find out everything and you can enroll. Again, because we work directly in some schools, that we work closely with our school partners there, but we have a community-based program that is offered on every other Saturday. And then, this expo and all the other things that we offer are on there as well, and they can enroll right from the website. Typically, at some point, we'll have a wonderful admin assistant. I'm looking to hire one soon. And so
I did see you were hiring but you're hiring for a part-time person, right?
We're going to start part-time, and the hopes is to, grow them right into full-time very, very soon.
Okay.
So,
She's like,
but they will enroll in our director of programs. Brittany Dent will reach out to them and get them all set up.
Okay. Okay. And so if a person is now saying, look, I want to get involved, I want to volunteer, what are some of the volunteer opportunities that you have for people to be able to be involved? If they have a skill set, like, are you looking for certain people to do certain things? So give us a little bit of information on that.
Yeah, so we actually have, we spend a lot of time during summer planning for the whole year. And so we have a drive schedule and a volunteer opportunity one pager. You can email, if you go on our website, there's a volunteer tab, and that information goes to Karen Harris, who oversees the volunteers. And we do have a process because, again, we want to make sure that we are background checking people, and, everybody's going through some level of culture competency type training. And so she can get you all that information, but we do have a calendar of opportunities. So even if you say, well, hey, you know what, I want to do a feminine product drive for them, or I want to do a gift card drive, like we have a whole schedule that she can send you that information, as well as other opportunities that we have.
Okay, so basically what I just heard is a person could also do their own fundraising or product raising or something for the nonprofit. That could be the way to give back. So like if they work at a corporation or a company where they can then get products donated, or if they just want to do something and maybe they're at their church, they want to be able to help your nonprofit, they can kind of do their own thing and then donate to the nonprofit.
Yep. Yep. So we have a drive schedule which outlines our needs for the year. And so if you, like, let's say you say, hey, Joy, I want to help. I would say, okay, let's get you in touch with Karen. And you may see the calendar. It says December, and I'm making this up because it is 8:43, and my mind is starting to. So you will get the drive calendar, and it may say like, okay, in November we know, or I guess I could use this one. In February, we know we typically give our girls feminine products. So you'll see, okay, they give it out in February. So in December will be the time. So we have a whole list of, when we need certain things and when the drive could take place. So we do have those type of opportunities available as well.
Oh, wow. So I like that because then this means a person can take their own initiative to
Yeah.
do something that then works for the nonprofit. Now, one thing that I want to just let people know, because a lot of people don't know this, but when your nonprofit is listed with GuideStar, but then also you listed with Facebook, you can also raise money on Instagram. Okay. So for
Mhm.
anybody who says, well, look, I don't even live near you, I can't do such and such. I don't want to do a drive like that, but I do want to help raise funds. Anybody can go online and then you can start your own fundraiser for Lead Girls of North Carolina. Okay. And so if
Mhm.
you are using Facebook, you type it in, you tell it Lead Girls, and then it'll let you start donating money, and then anybody else can donate money, and you can have like a certain goal that you can do, and then people can donate up until that time frame. And then what happens is then Facebook will send a check directly to Lead Girls because they're already registered in the Facebook. And a lot of
Uh-huh.
people don't realize that. So there may be people that are listening, there may be people that are watching later on if they're not watching live, who may say, I really love what you're doing. I don't live anywhere near you, but I want to be able to help. Now, in addition to that, they can also send in a check. They can also go
Yep.
on your website and they can donate, right? So I need people to understand that if you love what she's saying, you see this mission, this is something that you can identify with, and you want to donate, that there are multiple ways for you to be able to engage with Lead Girls and be able to give to them in whichever way suits you. So you might not live here, but that doesn't mean that you can't help them fundraise. So more people, I think, need to do that. And then for the end of the year, like let's just say, because this year is almost over, right? What do you see as a big goal that you would like to achieve maybe in the next year or the next 5 years? What is something that you're like, you know, this may be, what do they like to call it, that big hairy goal? What is that? What does that look like for you?
Well, I mean, I have a vision, but I will say we're actually entering into a community needs assessment starting in October, well, mid of October. And so that will really help drive our big goals. I mean, I have I have a vision that, Lee will be in every school. That's for sure. Lee may have a freestanding building at some point, and we may have a more robust type program for girls. But I will say I think a lot of our efforts need to be driven around what the community needs are, and what how we can make the most impact and really change our community. I mean, our community has a lot of challenges. We have a city of innovation, but then a city of poverty across 52, and
Food
so it's
deserts?
just
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just important that our efforts, I always keep our girls front and center. Like, if it's not something that is going to be beneficial to them, we shouldn't be doing it. And oftentimes I think organizations and people feel like they have the answer, but they don't. And so that community needs assessment will really help drive the possible expansion of Lead and what that'll look like. Do I see us working with girls a little bit younger? Yes.
Okay.
Do I see us serving girls that are a little bit older at some point? Maybe yes. And so
Mhm.
you can expect some big reveal at some point. Maybe at the beginning of the year. So
Okay, so you see, she's trying to keep us in suspense, y'all. She wants to tell us just a little bit, but she don't want to give us all the details. But it's okay. She told us about the expo, so y'all don't have to worry about that. But no, I think that when you start to look at where you want to go, what the direction is, it may look totally different than it did when you started, right? And
mhm.
so, what would you say is Joy's superpower? What is your superpower? If people were like, Joy, if you were a superhero, which you are, right? But what is your superpower? What do people get from you? Like, if you were saying, I give this one thing, what's your superpower?
Oh, that's interesting. I would say I think I'm a person that is truly just kind of who I am. Like you're gonna get the same person no matter what. I think I'm resourceful. I had someone say that the other day, like I'm calling you because I know you probably know somebody that does this, and I'm like, oh well, I may do. Let me
Uh
see
huh.
what I can do. And so, um, I think if anything, I leave people feeling inspired. And so that's probably my superpower. And I mean, I think that's probably been the one thing that I've been able to get people to rally behind, like what it can be when you put the work in. And so that's, you know, from even my staff. I mean, because it sounds like, yes, I had a vision, but like I have an amazing staff, and so I could not be on this call without mentioning them. I have been able to hire some amazing, talented women who are committed to this mission, and they help make it possible. Like, I mean, it is, I always say to them, like, we're like a football team and everybody's playing their position, and that's why it works so well. And we're hitting, you know, touchdown. But I have an amazing team. I could not do this work without them, and our board and our village is just growing, and, you know, so they make it possible. But I would say probably inspiring, you know, the hope for the future.
Now, do you find that when, you know, people start to see you doing well, that they want to help more?
I think, yeah. I mean, and as I said, you know, in the beginning, I think oftentimes I mean, let's just call it how it is. Let's give it to the people. It is, as a Black woman starting an organization, it is hard. It is so hard, and you get so much scrutiny, much more than your counterparts. And so, I mean, I had people that said no, and I remember there was times that I would actually cry, like, another no. But then I remember something in my head clicked off, like, you know what, it's a not now. It's not a no, it's a not now. And I thank God for those, because that really slowed me down to the place where, and again, kind of put me back on track. And so it all works out so well. So I would say yes. But I think, to me, it's more than you just giving me something. I really want to understand why you're giving to me. You know, why are you giving to lead? I want to understand you. I want to build a relationship with you, even if it's just, you know, knowing you and knowing you have kids, and because that's just kind of who I am. So as a leader, you know, that's what I bring into, you know, bring with lead. Like, I want to know you. And if you said no, why? You know, and how can we stay in touch?
How can we turn that into a yes?
I remember, matter of fact, there was one gentleman I went to a grant. This was when this might have been 2 years in. We actually made it through the first cycle. So you had to do like a request for proposal, and then you had to do a phone interview, and then you had an opportunity to talk with the grant manager. Now, I don't know why anybody would put you through all that, but whatever. And so the guy told me no. He said, like, this reminds me of an organization that I knew somebody that started, and she worked at Walmart, and she was doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, thank you so much for your time. I said, but I'll see you in a couple years. And so, you know, and look at us now. So,
but you know what? Now, we need to have a whole nother conversation. Like, I feel you, my spirit, I gotta, because I was going to ask you this question earlier, but I know we're trying to wrap up, and I like to keep things on the most positive note that we can possibly keep them on, but also let people sometimes understand the pitfalls. And one of the things that I think is, you know, you keep mentioning, you know, starting it as a Black woman, and there is a disparity in the lending and the funding of businesses and nonprofits, like when it comes to whatever, right? So it's one of those things where I am going to, because you just in my spirit confirmed, we need to have a conversation about why some of these organizations want to fund programs but don't want to fund the whole organization. Why that bias was there in the first place, because your nonprofit, you know, reminded him of something else, and that made him feel like he shouldn't give to you. Like, that's a problem. But this is the thing. We have gatekeepers at every instance. And I remember I applied for a grant, and I'm not going to take this story long because it's almost time for us to end. And I had two people, one I didn't know, but she knew me, and the other one I did know, and they were both on the committee to make a decision on if they were going to give the grant, right? And both of these women were Black. Everybody else that was in the committee was white, right? And they didn't know me. So when I first started the nonprofit, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to apply for this because what I'm doing is so different than everybody else that's doing a nonprofit that you should want to give me money. Because in my mind, if I'm helping women to start businesses, that helps them to be self-sufficient, right? Everybody else
Mhm.
is like, let's just give money, give money, give money, give money. And I'm like, but how are they going to get out of poverty? How are they going to do such and such, right? So mine was
Yep.
so different. But because of that, that was one of the reasons why they said no. But the two Black women both knew me, both knew my work, and were like, you should give because she does XYZ. But the other people did not bother to research, like you said.
Mhm.
And there was a bias, and I'm gonna tell you what the bias was because the mission of the nonprofit is to start, stay, and slay in business. And people said they didn't like the word slay. Slay is a real word, right?
Yep.
Right. And that's the purpose. So there was bias that was there that I couldn't control. But let me tell you the lesson it taught me is something that you said. It is understanding the people and knowing that even though you said no today, that I can come back a year later, 2 years later, and show you how worthy my nonprofit is of getting this
Yep.
funding, and that you should say yes to me in the first place. So we need to have a whole nother conversation because that
We
bias is
should.
there, and that's why we don't get some of the money that we need. But you see the same nonprofits getting the same amount of money or getting way more money, and what is their impact? Are they doing all the stuff that you talked about? Are they looking at those numbers? Do people really need what they do? Like, I'm
Yeah,
being petty now,
it's no,
right?
no, you hit the nail right
But we
on the
need to have a
head.
whole
I
nother
think
conversation.
that's the thing. Yeah, yeah, it is a whole nother. We'll have to get back in and have a conversation. But I will say that I've been most impressed, and I think because so maybe COVID and everything that has happened over the past years has really caused funders to start looking at things with an equity lens. I mean, like the thing is, a lot of people. And I mean,
Hmm.
oftentimes you wonder, come on now, you had to know. But, I like to think of it that, okay, let's educate people. And so now that you know, what will you do differently? And so I think, I have been most impressed with a lot of, especially some of our local foundations who are really looking
Hmm.
at things from an equity lens. And I mean, it's been amazing. And I think that's the thing, like even some of the individual, philanthropists here in our area are really starting to be intentional with their giving, and hopefully it's connecting to organizations that are truly making an impact. And so it's so
Hmm.
important
Hmm.
to fund those grassroots organizations. But I also feel like it's important for the grassroots organizations to have an infrastructure in place that they can sustain, even after they get that funding.
Girl, listen, you ain't said nothing but the gospel truth today, okay? When I'm telling you, if people don't understand, I think they understand that. Like if they didn't understand before this conversation, to me, you've given us sustainability. You've given us purpose. You've given us direction. You've given us clarity about our purpose and what we should do and what we should build and how we can then take our ideas and affect the community in which we live in. And to me, that's one of the most important things that you could definitely give to the people. So tell people where they can find you so that this way they can donate, they can volunteer, they can get their girls involved, all of that good stuff.
So you can find me personally at my email is joy@legirls.org. Any questions that you may have, as far as with the organization, www.legirls.org, and our office is 336-893-5755. So, and we're all over social media at Lead Girls of NC, and so you can find out information there as well. And again, I have an amazing team that will be right there to support you as you enroll your girl or get involved or whatever your heart desires. And
Yes,
remember,
I love that.
change your girl, change your community, change the world.
Yes. Okay, hold up. You got to say that one more time. Say it again.
So change your girl, change your community, and eventually you'll change the world.
Come on with it. Okay, now I was going to ask you, do you want to leave the people with a final word? But you just did it so eloquently that I didn't even have to ask that. This has been a great interview, and I'm really excited for people to be able to see this. And I wish there was a way, but you know what? This is what I'm going to say. For anybody, if you heard this, if you listened, if you saw it, however, I want you to send them a message and just let them know that you heard about this on Give It to the People. If you make a donation and there is a spot for you to tell them, let them know that you heard about this one, Give It to the People. If you call, if you email, just let them know, because I think that it's a great thing for us to see what the ROI is, that return on investment. This time that you spent watching, this time that you spent talking, this time that you spent listening and seeing how great this organization is. I really want people to be able to make that impact and to really see how they can contribute. And so what we do here is we give it to the people. So at the end, I love to tell you, thank you so much for sharing your time, Joy, and letting us know about your organization. We appreciate you so much. And for everybody else, make sure that you always show up and show out and continue to give it to the people. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, let me figure out how to get it.